what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video of Chad Fixes All. In this episode, we're going to be replacing the brakes on this Chevy Cruze. So we got the car all backed into the garage right now, and what we're going to be doing is changing the front brake pads and rotors out. So these are OEM quality. Right now, my brake pads are not performing as they should. You can see the rotors have a lot of glazing on them, a lot of hard braking. I drive a lot of city, a lot of traffic. So that's the front. Come back to the rears. Rears don't look terrible, not as bad as the front, but we're gonna go ahead and be replacing both front and rear today. And we're not gonna be just replacing it with just the OEM quality. We're gonna be upgrading. So here are the brake pads and rotors that we're going to be doing today. So I ended up doing the Wagner thermal quiets. These are ceramic brake pads, front and rear. Also comes with the hardware kit for the shims. Both front and rear both have the hardware kit. I'll make sure to link all this in the description below where I got it. I bought it off Amazon. This is the caliper paint. I'm just going to put them back to black. I like the black. So we'll clean those up, paint the caliper black and the caliper bracket holder. Also, these are the rotors. This is the rear one. I ended up going with cross-drilled slotted rotors because I wanted a little bit extra performance, a little bit better braking power. These are from Hart. That's the rear. This is the front. So got two of those for each front and rear. And yeah. So we'll just go ahead and start taking off the wheels and start diving right into this. So we have this up in the air now, and we're going to be focusing on the front first. Right now, I want to paint these, remember? So I want to go ahead and clean everything I can up right now while the rotor and the caliper and the caliper brackets all securely mounted, but with the old stuff. So right now I want to do, I'm just going to take some Easy Off oven cleaner. This will get a bunch of the grease and grime and everything off of it. So I'm just going to spray this on here. Wear gloves. This stuff is pretty potent. We're just going to spray it on there, just let it sit for a little bit. Alright, well that's looking quite a bit cleaner, but we still want to hit it with a wire wheel. So I've got my wire wheel here. We're just going to go ahead and hit it. Alright, well that's pretty clean. We're still going to clean up a little bit more in a few, but we got to get off the caliper. So we have two 10mm bolts right here and here that hold the caliper onto the bracket. So we're just going to bust those loose. Next, take a long screwdriver or a pry bar to leverage in between the caliper and the caliper bracket. Just kind of pull it out of the way. And now we'll set this off to the side. I'm going to zip tie it up in a minute. So using a couple zip ties, I'm going to go ahead and take the zip ties, run them through the caliper hole, and we're just going to put them together, and then we're going to attach them to the spring. And that's just to keep it out of the way for now. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and take out the brake pads. So do the outer one first. The outer one isn't terrible. It's pretty smooth overall. have a lot of pad left, but it just wasn't performing like I liked it. It seemed like it was getting hot really fast. And then take off the inner one. The inner one has a little bit less pad on it. Still not bad. There's a little bit of gunk in the center line here, but again, not terrible. Brake pads wore pretty evenly. Let's go ahead and take off the caliper bracket next. So the caliper bracket is held on by two 18mm bolts. So we're just going to go ahead and take our 18mm here and bust those loose. Now with those two bolts out, we can then take the caliper bracket and slide it off. Here it is. We still have a little bit of cleanup to do on this. Got a little bit of grime all over it, but it's off. Okay, after I got that caliper bracket off, I went ahead and cleaned up the caliper a little bit more. I took the caliper bracket, also cleaned that up a little bit. Let's go ahead and paint these up before we actually want to take off the rotor and everything like that. Things get a little bit tricky because the fact that there's a tight space and I'm not taking off the brake hose to do these. So we'll go ahead and hit these with a little bit of black paint. First, I do want to spray them down with a little bit of brake clean. Get off any residues or anything like that that's left on there. And we'll go ahead and let that dry real quick. While that's drying, this is the paint we're going to be using. This is the VHT high temperature caliper paint in black. It's rated up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty much all it says is you need to make sure that the parts that you're putting it on are extremely clean and remove any loose paint, dirt, rust, grease, etc. Pretty much have a clean surface. So that's a pretty clean surface. It's probably about the best we're going to get on these. So go ahead and let this dry a little bit more and we'll start painting it. Alright, so now you just want to do a nice light first coat. Do the same for the caliper bracket. Let's go ahead and put a second coat on the caliper. Put another coat on the caliper bracket. And there we go. The caliper is all painted. Now, I'm not going to show this process over the next other three, but similar process. Just going to be cleaning it, going to be then painting it after everything's all dried and cleared off. So I have a few other little things to touch up. I got to touch up underneath there and everything like that, but the calipers look great. These are going to look great against the new, very shiny rotors. So let's go ahead and keep continuing. We're going to take off that rotor next. Alright, so I went ahead and re-zip tied up the caliper so it's out of the way. Taking off the tape real quick. And then there's going to be one torque 30 bolt or screw right there. So a torque 30 looks something like this. It has a 6-pointed star on it. So fits right in there. Luckily mine aren't too rusted or anything like that, so it holds quite snug. I'm just going to shock it a little bit. See if we can get this off here. Awesome. With a little bit of force, head sledgehammer, and pull off the old rotor. So now we're ready for the reassembly. So we're going to take our left front rotor and we're going to go ahead and clean it off with some brake clean. So we're going to use the brake clean we got from the auto parts store. And you just want to spray it on liberally. Get it everywhere. You just take a clean rag. You want to clean it all off. Any of the oils or anything like that that came along with it when in shipment, you want to get them all off. So we're going to go in and clean these. There we go. Now we can go ahead and reinstall it back on the car. Take the rotor. Make sure you have the screw hole with the existing screw hole. Mine was right here. And then go ahead and screw that back in. There we go. Now, we're going to take a new hardware kit. Ours came with new hardware within the brake box. One of the reasons why I went with this one. So we're going to go ahead and install the new shims. When installing, you want to make sure you use some brake parts lubricant. This is the Ceramic Extreme from Permatex. This is really good stuff. I'll make sure to have a link in the description to it. Now I like to just double check my orientation. So this is going to be sitting like this. So the brake pads need to go around the rotor. So what we're going to do is install one like this. There's one. There's two. Now we can go ahead and put this around the rotor and put the bolts in. So just like we took it off, we're going to put it right back on. And there we go. We have the brake caliper bracket, the brake pads installed, and now we can just go ahead and do our caliper. Now that the caliper bracket's back on there, we need to compress the piston on the caliper, so let's go ahead and do that. Now what I like to do is I like to use a big pair of vice grips on this. So I usually stick the vice grips in here. Loosen up the neck a little bit. Once they're in here, then I tighten it back up and I slowly compress the piston back in. Just be careful, make sure you apply even pressure all the way back in. There we go, the piston's now all the way back in. Now on the caliper bracket, you have these two slides here. You want to pull each of them out here, and you're going to want to lube these up. You can use the same stuff that you used for the brake caliper, or the brake pads. So I'm going to clean them off a little bit and then apply a bunch of new grease on there. There we go. Those are back in. They pushed in real easy. I'm just going to take my rag here and I'm going to wipe off any extra. Next, we're going to take the caliper and bring it back down here and put it over top of the brake pads. I'll try to be careful, try not to scratch the caliper at all, since we just painted them. Got the top one all lined up. Getting the bottom one all lined up now. There we go. Those are all tightened down, nice and secure. There we go. That is looking awesome all the way around. I really like the black caliper, black brake caliper bracket on there. The chrome or aluminum finish is looking awesome too. Hopefully they stop as good as they look. Let's go tackle the back. Now for the rear, you have two bolts holding onto the caliper to the caliper bracket. Let's go ahead and go on the other side so I can show you a little better. These two bolts are this one and this one right down here. So what we want to do is, the top one's a 14 millimeter. The bottom one's a little different. You can see that there's this long bar right here. It almost seems like a weight or some kind of counterbalance. I'm not quite sure, but there is a spot right here to put a 13 millimeter open-ended wrench on it. And just kind of see if you can get it to bust loose here. Having a little luck with that, so I went ahead and put on a pair of vice grips, see if we can bust it off with this. Sure enough, you're able to do that. Get a little extra leverage, a little extra bite. I hate open-ended wrenches personally, so go ahead and pull this out and I'll show it to you. So here's that piece. I have no clue what this is for. Like I said, it almost seems like a weight or some kind of balance, but it does have a spot right here to put on the open-ended wrench. I just used the vice grips. From here, you can use that pry bar again. Pry away the caliper. Set that off to the side. Next, there's two 15 millimeter bolts holding on the caliper bracket. We're just going to go ahead and take the caliper bracket and brake pads all together. Got those two bolts out. And there's our brake pads. Again, these don't look terrible. The rears didn't really feel like they were performing poorly. It was the fronts mostly, but we're just doing everything at the same time. So we're gonna go ahead and clean up this caliper bracket and everything like that, same way we did the front. Get it painted up nice and clean. And then we'll also do the caliper here. And then we'll come back and take this rotor off after. All right, so we have the caliper bracket all painted up, looking really good. We also have the caliper all done as well back here. So next what we're gonna do is take off the rotor. Same as the front, this should be a torque 30. All right, taking our sledgehammer as before. Two good whacks. And you can remove the old brake rotor. Same as front, use your brake cleaner to clean out the rotor. Okay, so go ahead and reinstall the rotor. There we go, the rotor is now back on. Now let's go ahead and work on that brake caliper bracket. So I got the shims out of the hardware pack within the brake pads box, and we're just gonna reinstall these real quick. All right, those are now on there. Now we'll go ahead and grease that up. Now we're going to reinstall the brake pads. There's 4 of them. They're all exactly the same within the box. Alright, there we go. Now we can reinstall the brake caliper bracket back on the car. Now using our 15 millimeter socket, we're going to tighten these down. There we go. Now the brake caliper bracket is now reinstalled. Now let's go ahead and push in the caliper piston. Now to put the caliper piston back in the rear, you have these 2 little spots here on the side of the piston that you need to put a tool in there. This tool looks like this. So this is a brake caliper tool. You have different settings depending on different brand, make, car. that you're working on. So on this one, we're going to be using these far outer tabs here. That seems to fit in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in there, and we're going to spin it to the right, I believe, and that's going to suck that piston back in. So let's grab ratchet and let's see if we can do that. So on a long extension here, I got it all hooked up. Spinning, hopefully it's going back in. Applying some pressure while spinning it back in. There we go, the piston's all the way back in. Now we can go ahead and just lay this down here carefully. And then we need to remove these, just like we did on the front, the slides, and we need to grease these up. And we're just going to clean up the extra. Now with those greased up, now we can slide on the caliper onto the bracket. And using our 14mm up top, and tighten that down. And we're just going to reuse our vice grips down on the bottom. And there we go. Now that's all reassembled. Validate that you spin freely still. Looks great. Nice and lubed up. Everything's looking great here. Alright, so now we have both the front and the rear done. These are looking great. Nice cross drilled slotted rotors on there, ceramic brake pads, painted calipers, brackets, all of it. Looks awesome. So we're going to throw the wheels back on this now, and then I'll complete the other side off camera, and then we'll go for a test drive. Looking even better with the wheel on. Just a sneak peek of the cross drill slotted rotors in there. Good looking caliper. Everything's looking awesome. I'm glad I went with this color choice. Looks great. Awesome. Just like that, the passenger side is now done. This turned out equally as awesome. So now I'll go ahead and throw back on the wheels, and we'll go for a test drive. Alright, so the brake pedal was a little spongy at first, but now it's back up to normal because we had to push in those caliper pistons. So let's put it into gear and push the brake, make sure this stops. It does stop. We should be good though. Get a little brake check here. Well, those feel nice and smooth. And I'm really liking this so far already. Before we get on the main road, I want to just remind you guys to subscribe to my channel, like my video. Also check out my other videos on the Cruze. I have a lot out there. Always looking to do more videos as well. But this one's been a fun one. Been needing to do it for a while now. We'll get a little speed up now. nice and smooth. Hold the windows up here real quick. Even braking, I got my hand off the wheel right now. Nice and easy. Just got back. Brake pads look good. Calipers look good. Rotors look good. That's what they're like all the way around. Well, this looks like a job well done. So like I said, like my video, subscribe to my channel, check out my other ones, and thanks for watching.